Hello everyone. Kindly hit the subscribe button on your screen and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. One lie. That's all it took to shatter everything I built. One moment of weakness that cascaded into an avalanche I couldn't outrun. The text from my husband arrived at precisely 9:47 p.m. I know where you are. For words that made my blood freeze in my veins as I stared at my phone, the champagne glass slipping from my fingers and shattering against the hotel room floor. I never meant for it to happen. That's what everyone says, isn't it? The cliché that tumbles from guilty lips when they're caught red-handed. But standing there in that luxury suite, wearing lingerie I hadn't worn for my husband in years, I realized clichés exist because they hold kernels of bitter truth. 3 months earlier, I was just Vanessa Coleman, project manager and loyal wife of 8 years to James. We weren't perfect, but we were stable. Comfortable. Or maybe that was the problem, too comfortable, too predictable, too safe. When Richard Harrington took over as CEO of our company, something shifted in the stagnant air of my existence. Richard wasn't conventionally handsome, but power draped over him like an expensive suit. His eyes held something dangerous when they lingered on me during meetings. He had a way of making me feel seen when I'd been invisible for so long. Spectacular work on the Henderson account, he'd said, his hand brushing mine as he returned my proposal. I'd like to discuss your future with the company. Dinner, perhaps? Next Tuesday. I should have said no. Instead, I nodded, heat blooming across my cheeks like a guilty flag. The first dinner was innocent enough, professional conversation in a well-lit restaurant. The second, less so. By the third, we were sharing whispered confessions over candlelight. By the fourth, I was crafting elaborate lies to tell James. Mom's not feeling well, I told him that fateful Thursday. I'm going to stay with her tonight, make sure she takes her medication. The words flowed too easily, like I'd been rehearsing them all my life. James, sweet and trusting James, had kissed my forehead and packed me a sandwich for the road. Tell your mom I hope she feels better, he'd said. The guilt should have crushed me then, but instead, it merely flickered, a warning light I deliberately ignored as I drove not to my mother's suburban home but to the Grayson Hotel downtown, where Richard waited in the presidential suite with champagne on ice and hunger in his eyes. I didn't know that James had installed a tracking app on my phone weeks earlier. Not because he suspected anything, but because of his constant worry about my safety during late work nights. A gesture of protection that would ultimately expose my betrayal. Standing in that hotel room, watching the champagne soak into the plush carpet as my phone vibrated with another incoming text, I felt the floor falling away beneath me. Richard noticed my expression. "What's wrong?" he asked, his confidence unwavering, shirt already half unbuttoned. I couldn't speak. I just turned the phone toward him, showing James's follow-up message, "I'm coming upstairs." Richard's face hardened in an instant, transforming from lover to CEO. He can't know it's me. The scandal would tank the company stock. My divorce would. And there it was. In that moment of crisis, his first thought wasn't about me or the devastating consequences I faced. It was about himself, his reputation, his money. The room key card clicked in the door before I could even process my next thought. Time slowed as the handle turned, and I caught my reflection in the mirror across the room, a stranger staring back at me, someone I no longer recognized. The door swung open. James stood there, his 6-foot frame suddenly imposing in a way it had never been during our marriage. His eyes, usually soft and kind, were hard obsidian as they took in the scene, the champagne, the scattered clothes, his wife and his boss frozen in a tableau of betrayal. "James," I whispered, his name catching in my throat like broken glass. The look on his face, I'll never forget it as long as I live. Not anger. Not even hatred. Something far worse, heartbreak so profound it changed his features, aged him 10 years in 10 seconds. "How long?" was all he asked, his voice eerily calm. Before I could answer, Richard stepped forward, straightening his shirt. "James, this isn't what it looks like." The laugh that erupted from my husband's throat was hollow, haunting. "Really? That's the line you're going with?" You're not only sleeping with my wife, but you're insulting my intelligence too. I found my voice then, small and pathetic. James, please, let me explain. Explain what, exactly? His eyes finally met mine, and the devastation there made me physically recoil. Explain how you lied about being at your mother's? How you've been lying for weeks? Months? Or explain why you're in a hotel room with the man who shook my hand at the company Christmas party and told me how lucky I was to have you. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the soft drip of champagne from the overturned bottle. And then James did something I never expected. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He simply turned to leave. Where are you going? I gasped, panic rising in my chest. He paused, his back to me, shoulders rigid with restraint. Home. To pack your things. As the door closed behind him with devastating finality, I realized some mistakes can't be undone. Some betrayals cut too deep for apologies to reach. And standing in that hotel room with champagne soaking into the carpet and my marriage bleeding out before my eyes, I knew I was just beginning to face the consequences of the web of lies I had spun. Before I continue, kindly hit the subscribe button on your screen. The hallway outside the presidential suite stretched before me like a tunnel to judgment as I chased after James, barefoot and half-dressed. Every step felt like moving through quicksand, my heart hammering against my ribs with such force I thought it might shatter. James, wait! I called out, my voice echoing in the empty corridor. He was already at the elevator, jabbing the button with controlled fury. When he turned to face me, the clinical hotel lighting cast harsh shadows across his features, transforming the face I'd woken up beside for 8 years into that of a stranger. Don't, he said, holding up one hand. Just don't. Behind me, Richard appeared in the doorway, hastily dressed and wearing the calculated expression of a man already formulating damage control. James, let's be reasonable about this. We can discuss this like adults. The laugh that burst from James was ugly, raw. Like adults? Was it adult to sleep with my wife? To look me in the eye at work every day knowing what you were doing behind my back? His gaze shifted between us, disgust evident in every line of his face. You two deserve each other. The elevator door slid open with a cheerful ding that felt obscene in the gravity of the moment. James stepped inside. Please, I begged, tears streaming down my face. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. Explain what, Vanessa? His voice cracked on my name. How you lied straight to my face. How you let me kiss you goodbye this morning knowing you'd be in his bed tonight. How you used your sick mother as your alibi. The doors began to close, and in a desperate move, I thrust my hand between them. They bounced back open, but James made no move to hold them. I made a terrible mistake, I whispered. No. His eyes were terrifyingly clear. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or burning dinner. This was a choice. You made it repeatedly, deliberately. And now we all have to live with it. The doors closed, sealing him away from me. I stood there, palm pressed against the cold metal, as if I could somehow reach through it and pull back the life I'd just destroyed. Richard's hand landed on my shoulder. Come back inside. People are staring. I shrugged him off violently. Don't touch me. For the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across his face. Vanessa, I understand you're upset, but we need to think practically now. About work, about next steps. Next steps. I rounded on him, rage replacing my despair so quickly it left me dizzy. My marriage is over, and you're talking about the next steps? Like this is some quarterly business review. His expression hardened. I'm trying to help you. When you've calmed down, you'll see that. That what? That destroying my marriage was worth it? For what, Richard? A few nights in luxury hotels? The thrill of sneaking around. The truth crashed over me like a wave, cold and clarifying. You never cared about me. I was just another acquisition. His silence confirmed everything. In that moment, I saw Richard Harrington clearly for the first time, not as the charismatic, powerful man who had swept me off my feet, but as someone cold and calculating to his core. "I need to go," I said, suddenly desperate to be anywhere but there. "Where?" he asked, arching one perfect eyebrow. "Back to your husband?" "That ship has sailed, Vanessa." You saw his face. The cruel accuracy of his words felt like a slap. Where would I go? I couldn't face James, couldn't bear to see the look in his eyes as he packed my things. I couldn't go to my mother's, the real one, not the fictional sick woman I'd invented for my alibi. How could I explain this to her? I retreated to the room on autopilot, gathering my clothes and dignity in trembling hands. Richard watched from the doorway, his posture relaxed now that he understood I posed no threat to his carefully constructed world. "You could stay," he offered, voice silk smooth. "Just until things blow over." The suggestion turned my stomach. Things aren't going to blow over, Richard. This isn't a PR problem. This is my life. As I dressed, a new text illuminated my phone screen. Not from James, but from Sophia, my best friend since college. James just called me. He's a wreck. What the hell is going on? My fingers hovered over the keys. What could I possibly say? Sorry, I destroyed everything because I was bored and flattered by attention? The truth was too ugly, too revealing of who I'd become. I gathered my things and headed for the door. "Where will you go?" Richard asked again, this time with less interest, already reaching for his own phone, no doubt to contact his lawyer or PR team. "Away from you," I answered simply. The hotel lobby felt like a gauntlet, every eye seemingly on me, though logically I knew no one could tell just by looking what I'd done. The night air hit my flushed skin as I emerged onto the street, the city lights blurring through my tears. I called an Uber, directing it to Sophia's apartment. If anyone would tell me the unvarnished truth about what I'd done and what I should do next, it would be her. The car arrived, and as I slipped into the back seat, my phone buzzed with another notification. A single email from James, subject line, divorce. My finger trembled as I opened it. Inside was just one line, "I've contacted a lawyer. Don't come home tonight." The Uber driver glanced in the rearview mirror as I broke down, sobs racking my body. "You okay back there, miss?" I couldn't answer. How could I be okay when everything was falling apart? When the foundation I'd built my life upon was crumbling beneath my feet? As the car wove through nighttime traffic, my phone lit up with another text, from Richard. "We should discuss how to handle this at work on Monday. Discretion is key." That's when something inside me snapped. In the span of 2 hours, I'd lost my husband, my self-respect, and any illusion about Richard's feelings for me. But I refused to lose my dignity too. I typed back a response that would change everything once more. "There won't be a Monday for us to discuss anything. I quit. And James deserves to know exactly who you really are." His response was immediate and chilling. "Don't threaten me, Vanessa. You have far more to lose than I do." As Sophia's apartment building came into view, I realized with startling clarity that Richard was wrong. I had already lost everything that mattered. What I didn't know then was that the worst was yet to come. Sophia's face when she opened her apartment door told me everything. Her usual warm smile was gone, replaced by an expression I'd never seen directed at me before, disappointment mingled with disbelief. "Jesus, Vanessa," she whispered, stepping aside to let me in. "What have you done?" I collapsed onto her couch, the weight of my actions pressing down on me like a physical force. "I destroyed everything." She didn't contradict me, didn't offer the immediate comfort friends usually provide. Instead, she sat across from me, maintaining a deliberate distance. "James called me," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "He could barely speak. I've known you both for 10 years, and I've never heard him like that." Fresh tears spilled down my cheeks. "I never meant to hurt him." "But you did," she replied, not unkindly but without softening the truth. "You hurt him in the worst possible way, with the worst possible person. The truth of her words stung, but I needed to hear them. Needed someone to reflect back to me the magnitude of what I'd done without cushioning the blow. I don't know who I am anymore, Sophia, I confessed, the words torn from somewhere deep inside me. The woman who did this, who lied and cheated and used her sick mother as an excuse. I don't recognize her. Sophia's eyes softened slightly. That's the first honest thing you've said in months, isn't it? I nodded, shame burning through me. You can stay here tonight, she said, rising to get linens for the couch. But tomorrow, you need a plan. This isn't going to disappear. Sleep eluded me that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw James's face in that hotel hallway, the moment trust died in his eyes. By morning, I was hollow-eyed and exhausted, scrolling through a phone filled with notifications I was too afraid to open. Finally, I forced myself to look. 17 missed calls from my mother, James had obviously told her. Dozens of texts from co-workers and friends, their confusion palpable even through the screen. An email from HR confirming my resignation had been processed with immediate effect. And one text from Richard, my lawyer will be in touch about your threats. Think carefully about your next move. Threats? Sophia asked, reading over my shoulder as she handed me coffee. What does he mean? I explained my parting message to Richard, watching her eyes widen. You quit your job? And threatened to expose him to James. She shook her head. Vanessa, he could destroy you professionally. He already destroyed me personally, I said bitterly. What more could he take? Her expression turned grave. A lot. Your reputation, your career prospects, possibly even your financial stability if he decides to sue for defamation. The realization hit me like a physical blow. In my emotional state, I hadn't considered the power imbalance between us. Richard had resources, connections, and a vested interest in maintaining his reputation. What have I gotten myself into? I whispered. Sophia squeezed my hand. A mess. But not one you can't get through. First, you need to talk to James, really talk to him. He doesn't want to see me, I said, showing her his email. Of course he doesn't want to see you. But sometimes what we want isn't what needs to happen. She took my phone, dialing before I could stop her. James? It's Sophia. She's here with me. Yes, I know. I understand, but she paused, listening to whatever he was saying on the other end. Okay. Okay. Thank you. She hung up, her expression grim. He'll see you. At your house, noon today. He's already packed your things. The drive to what had been our home felt surreal, like navigating through someone else's nightmare. The modest two-story we'd purchased 3 years ago looked exactly the same from the outside, the blue shutters we'd painted together, the garden boxes I'd installed last spring. But it was no longer mine. James opened the door before I could knock, his face a mask of control. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and he'd clearly not slept either. Your things are in the guest room, he said without preamble. Take what you need today. I'll arrange storage for the rest. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of home hitting me with such force that my knees nearly buckled. James, please. No. The word was quiet but final. I didn't agree to see you so you could explain or apologize. I agree because it's practical. We need to discuss logistics. Logistics, I repeated hollowly. Is that what 8 years of marriage comes down to? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Don't you dare. Don't you dare act like I reduced our marriage to logistics. You reduced it to a lie the moment you decided he was worth betraying everything we built. The truth of his words silenced me. As I followed him to the guest room, I noticed changes already, our wedding photo removed from the hallway, my books cleared from the living room shelves. He was erasing me, methodically and thoroughly. The guest room was filled with boxes labeled in his precise handwriting. Clothes. Books. Personal items. The artifacts of a life now over. I've drafted a settlement proposal, James said, handing me a manila envelope. It's fair. More than fair, actually. I'm not interested in punishing you financially. I took it with trembling hands. Just emotionally. His laugh was bitter. Trust me, Vanessa, nothing I could do would punish you more than what you've already done to yourself. He studied me for a moment. Does he make you happy, at least? Was it worth it? The question pierced through my defenses. No, I whispered. It was never about happiness. It was about feeling something different. Escaping the routine we'd fallen into. I was selfish and stupid, and you destroyed us, he finished, his voice catching slightly. For the first time, I saw the depth of his pain peek through his controlled facade. I trusted you completely. Do you understand what that means? Completely. I never once questioned where you were or who you were with. I believed in us. Tears streamed down my face. I believed in us too. I just lost my way. James, if there's any chance, any possibility that someday. There isn't. His voice was gentle now, which somehow hurt more than his anger. Some things can't be fixed, Vanessa. Trust, once shattered, doesn't just reassemble itself. As I began gathering my immediate necessities, my phone buzzed. Another email from Richard, subject line, final warning. James noticed my expression. What is it? Nothing, I said quickly, but he reached for the phone before I could stop him. He read the email, his face darkening. He's threatening you with legal action if you continue making defamatory statements. What exactly happened after I left last night? I explained my confrontation with Richard, watching comprehension dawn in James's eyes. So now you're not only dealing with our divorce, but potential legal action from your former boss and lover. The corner of his mouth twisted. Consequences coming at you from all sides. I deserve it, I said quietly. Something shifted in his expression then, not forgiveness, not even close, but a flicker of humanity breaking through his wall of hurt. No one deserves to be threatened, Vanessa. Not even you. He took my phone again, typing something quickly before handing it back. I looked down to see he'd forwarded Richard's email to himself. What are you doing? Gathering evidence, he said simply. Richard Harrington isn't the only one with resources. Before I could process what that meant, a car horn sounded outside. We both looked out the window to see a sleek black sedan pulling into our driveway. Are you expecting someone? James asked, frowning. I wasn't. But as the car door opened and Richard himself stepped out, looking immaculate in a tailored suit despite the previous night's chaos, I realized with sinking dread that my past had quite literally arrived at my doorstep. And judging by the expression on James's face, things were about to get much worse. The air crackled with tension as Richard strode up our walkway, his confidence so absolute it bordered on arrogance. He hadn't expected to find James here, that much was clear from the momentary falter in his step when our eyes met through the window. But Richard Harrington hadn't become CEO by backing down from confrontation. You need to leave, James said, moving toward the front door. His voice was dangerously calm, the kind of calm that precedes storms. I caught his arm. James, don't. Let me handle this. He looked down at my hand on his sleeve, then back at my face. Like you've handled everything else. The words stung, but they weren't wrong. Besides, he added, he came to my house. Our house. The correction seemed to pain him. The doorbell rang, its cheerful chiming congruous with the heaviness in the air. James opened the door, positioning himself so Richard couldn't see into the house, couldn't see me hovering just behind. You have a lot of nerve showing up here, James said. Richard's smile was practiced, diplomatic. James. I understand your anger, but I think we all need to discuss this situation like adults. There's nothing to discuss. James's voice remained unnervingly steady. You slept with my wife. She lied to me. I'm divorcing her. End of story. Richard's gaze shifted past James to find me. Vanessa, we need to talk. Privately. About the email you sent. James laughed, a sound devoid of humor. There will be no private conversations between you two. Not in my house. Something hardened in Richard's expression, the mask of civility slipping. This doesn't concern you. Doesn't concern me. James's control finally cracked. You came to my home, after sleeping with my wife, to threaten her with legal action because she dared to stand up to you. I moved forward then, placing myself beside James in the doorway. He's right, Richard. You should leave. Richard's eyes narrowed. I came here to give you a chance to reconsider your position. To retract your threat about exposing me. This could get very unpleasant for you, Vanessa. More unpleasant than it already is. I asked, finding strength I didn't know I had. You've already cost me my marriage. My job. My self-respect. What more could you possibly take? Your future, he said simply. One word from me and you'll never work in this industry again. I felt rather than saw James tense beside me, but before he could speak, I found words rising from somewhere deep within me, words I should have said months ago. No, I said, my voice steady for the first time since this nightmare began. You don't have that power over me anymore. Richard's laugh was cold. Don't be naive. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, James said, pulling out his phone, I think you're the one who doesn't understand the situation. He held up the screen, showing a recording app running. Everything you just said? Threatening my wife's career after coercing her into a relationship where you held all the power? The board would find that very interesting. Color drained from Richard's face. You're recording this? That's illegal without consent in this state. Not when there's reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, James countered. Harassment, coercion, abuse of power, should I continue? I stared at James in disbelief. Even now, after everything I'd done, he was defending me. Richard's confidence visibly faltered. You're bluffing. Try me, James said quietly. I have nothing left to lose. A tense silence stretched between them, two men measuring each other's resolve. Finally, Richard adjusted his cuffs, retreating behind his corporate facade. This isn't over, he said, but the threat sounded hollow now. Yes, I said with a clarity that surprised me, it is. We watched him walk back to his car, the set of his shoulders betraying his fury. Only when the sedan disappeared down the street did I turn to James. Why did you do that? I asked. He pocketed his phone, not meeting my eyes. Because whatever happened between us, you don't deserve to be threatened or have your career destroyed. What he was doing, it was wrong. Thank you, I whispered. He nodded once, then moved back inside, the brief moment of alliance already fading. You should finish getting your things. I followed him inside, the weight of everything still between us. James, what you just did. Don't, he interrupted, his voice tired. Don't mistake that for forgiveness, Vanessa. I didn't do it because I still love you. He paused, the admission seeming to pain him. I mean, I do still love you. That doesn't just disappear overnight. But I can't be with you. I can't trust you. And without trust, love isn't enough. The finality in his voice broke something inside me, the last shred of hope I'd been desperately clinging to. I know, I said softly. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve it. But I am sorry, James. Sorrier than I can ever express. He looked at me then, really looked at me, perhaps for the last time as my husband. I believe you are. But that doesn't change anything. We finished loading my essential belongings into my car in silence. As I prepared to leave, standing in the driveway of the home we'd built together, I turned to him one last time. Will you be okay? I asked. A sad smile touched his lips. Eventually. That's how life works. We break, and then slowly, we heal. I hope you find happiness again, I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. With someone who deserves you. I hope you find yourself again, he replied. The woman I married, she was worth loving. Tears blurred my vision as I drove away, the house growing smaller in my rearview mirror until it disappeared completely. Just like the life I'd thrown away. 3 months later, I sat in a small cafe across town, my laptop open to a half-finished job application. Starting over at 34 wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Richard had followed through on some of his threats, whispers and rumors that made finding work in my field challenging. But James had followed through too, sending the recording to select board members. Richard remained CEO, but his power was diminished, his reputation tarnished. James and I finalized our divorce with as much dignity as possible. We didn't speak beyond what was necessary, each interaction a fresh reminder of what could have been. I'd heard through mutual friends that he was selling the house, moving to the coast for a fresh start. I hoped the ocean air would heal what I had broken. As for me, I was learning to live with the consequences of my actions. Therapy twice a week, rebuilding relationships with friends and family who'd been shocked by what I'd done, creating a new life from the ashes of the one I'd burned down. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia, dinner tonight? The new Italian place downtown. I smiled, grateful for the friends who hadn't abandoned me despite everything. The road to redemption was long, and I'd only taken the first steps. But for the first time since that night at the hotel, I felt something like hope. Not hope for reconciliation with James, that door was closed forever, and rightfully so. But hope that someday, I might become someone worthy of trust again. Someone who understood that love wasn't about excitement or escape, but about choice, choosing the same person every day, through boredom and routine and all of life's challenges. I looked up from my phone to see a familiar figure entering the cafe. James! Our eyes met across the room, and after a moment of surprise, he gave me a small, sad nod of acknowledgement before turning away. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship. But it was something, a recognition that we had both survived the wreckage. That life continued, even after betrayal. I returned to my application, typing my name into the blank space at the top of the form. Vanessa Coleman. A name I was trying to make mean something different than it had before. One lie had shattered everything I'd built. But the truth, painful as it was, had set me on the path to building something new. Something, perhaps, with a stronger foundation. Thank you so much for reading this story through to its conclusion. I hope Vanessa's journey of mistakes, consequences, and beginning steps toward redemption resonated with you. What did you think of the ending? Do you believe she deserved another chance with James, or was this the right outcome? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please consider subscribing for more stories that explore the complexities of human relationships and the difficult path to redemption. Your support means everything to me, and I'm so grateful you chose to spend time with these characters.